Resident Evil Rankings. Hello everybody and welcome to video number 2. Today we're going to be covering boss battles. And again, once again, I'd like to thank Mr. Cody Leach for having me part of this Resident Evil Rankings. This was a fun list. And you know what? When I thought about it, there weren't a lot of memorable battles. So I only came up with 8. But I think you'll enjoy it. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on the top Resident Evil boss battles.
Self-destruct sequence has been activated. Repeat, the self-destruct sequence has been activated. This sequence may not be aborted. All employees proceed to the emergency car at the bottom platform.
Oh my god, the self-destruction's been initiated. Okay, we better get started on this. I got what, how many minutes? Okay, let's get started. Now. Coming in at number 8 is Lady D. Why? Because I have to really hand it to the Capcom developers. I never at any time in gaming history have ever been aroused and terrified at the same time. And Lady D, I must say, had a unique, lovely presence and effect on my gaming experience. So Lady D, I wish they make more games with you featuring you in it. And also we get to know more about you and your backstory. So yes, coming in at number 8 is Lady D. Coming in at number 7 is Yawn the Snake from the Resident Evil remake for the GameCube, because I have a fear of snakes. I live in South Texas, so snakes are a regular thing in our lives. And just seeing that snake, as great as it looked on the GameCube, I have a fear of it. And I remember dying a couple times, and just seeing that sequence when you get eaten by the snake and you see it swallow you, it had like a realistic, you know, some sort of like DNA-enriched fear that just sparked within me. That and spiders within games, those always get me like, ugh, they give me the creeps. And Yawn the Snake in that boss battle, and especially again how great he looked in the remake, I gotta hand it to that. As brief as it was memorable. So Yawn the Snake at number 7. Coming in at number 6 is Marguerite from Resident Evil 7, the mom spider. Yeah, again, it's a creepy, it's just creepy overall, what can I say? And it just gives me like the goosebumps and just the chills in how well it looked, especially when she stood upright and you can see her legs and her stomach exposing all that egg sac, whatever it was. It looked too good and made me feel uncomfortable. But again, her movements, the animation, she would go on the ceiling, underneath the ground, over the walls, and sometimes pulling you in through the window. That whole sequence was pretty terrifying and looked great. And again, I have a fear of spiders as well. So Marguerite comes in at number 6 from Resident Evil 7. Eesh. Now coming in at number 5 is William Birkin. Now this is the PS1 version of William Birkin. Let me explain why. This was the first time I remember seeing a villain follow you throughout the entire progress of the game. And each time you saw him, he evolved to something different, a different form. And I remember like, wow, put your mind back in 1999 with the PS1 in gaming. You hadn't seen that before in gaming, in my experience. You just seen this character consistently. You can't beat him, but he's consistently following you. And it's becoming stronger and changing form. And I was looking at the graphics, I remember the animations, everything. I was really just blown away at the development and the animators, everybody involved in this game, because he looked different and it was terrifying, and different mechanics, different ways to beat him. You couldn't beat him the same way over and over again. So William Birkin is number 5 for me. Number 4 is a Tyrant from Resident Evil 1. 1996, I remember playing Resident Evil, and it was the first time I remember having a horror cinematic experience on a gaming console. I'll never forget that. Playing it now, it looks horrible. But just that entire gaming experience, knowing you can die, it was one of the first games that you can actually be eaten alive, and then, you know, that says you died on the game. It really freaked me out, and I did not want to die because I had this phobia of zombies. But it was just a fun experience. And the Tyrant at the very end of the game was really one of the first major achievements I was quote unquote proud of as a gamer, because I felt like I had beaten a movie. And that's really all I can say. And granted, you didn't beat him, you know, they just threw like a rocket launcher, and they've been using that same mechanic for all the other Resident Evil games, but that particular one really stands out to me. And I remember having the greatest sense of accomplishment back in 1996. What an experience, man. First Resident Evil. So there you go. Number 4 is the Tyrant. Now coming in at number 3 is the giant fish in Resident Evil 4, Delago. What can I say? It was really the first time I remember it being a water-based battle. I don't think we had encountered that in the previous Resident Evils, and it was really unique. And I remember seeing like 4 or 5 different animations of dying when he didn't throw the harpoon a certain way or the timing wasn't right. And I thought that was really unique and clever because I remember, again, this is Resident Evil 4 back in early 2003 or 4, and I remember thinking, wow, the creators are really having a great time with this game. It's Resident Evil, it feels like Resident Evil, but it's also different. And I gotta applaud the gamers, the game designers on that, and just creating a fun experience with that. And again, we've had that similar battle throughout the other games as they come about, especially in Resident Evil 8. But Delago was one of the unique experiences for me, so that comes in at number 3. Coming in at number 2, we have another character from Resident Evil 4, that's Jack Keiser, or Keiser, however you pronounce it. Why? Because he was one of the few characters I felt that can beat Leon Kennedy. And there was a few fights. I remember seeing a knife battle where you had to hit the buttons in the right time to block a knife battle or block one of his knife attacks. And I remember I didn't do it, and he cut my throat and I bled out. And it says you died. And I remember he kept killing me in different ways in Resident Evil 4. And I remember, wow, this guy's really good. He's fast. And I was actually scared to fight him in a Rocky 3 Clubber Lang type of, environment, if that makes sense to you. But Jack Keiser, yeah, I remember just being fearful of encountering him, especially with the history he and Leon had. I was terrified that he could literally beat me. And of all the boss battles, that's really the only one that I had that type of fear. Isn't that weird? Because of that knife fight, him slicing my throat. Anyway, number 2 is Jack Keiser. And before I get to my number 1, I want to thank everybody for watching so far. And if you like my video, please hit the like button, put comments below, hit the subscribe button. It would mean the world to me to let me know that you like what I'm doing. And again, without further ado, let's go ahead to number 1. Number 1 is Lisa Trevor from Resident Evil 1, the remake for the GameCube. Why? I'll tell you why. I've never felt such a large amount of empathy and pity for a character like I did with her. She wasn't in the original Resident Evil, but I just remember reading her backstory and what she went through when she was longing for her mother. I remember beating her, and then, the coffin of her mother's grave lifts, and she looks and she sees her mother's dead body. And she grabs the skull and she says, "Mother," and she jumps off the cliff and she dies. So you never really beat her, but she just killed herself. And I remember like, wow, that's deep. I've never, in all the Resident Evil gaming experiences, have I felt such remorse and empathy and sadness for a character. I really felt bad for her. And it stayed with me. And isn't it weird? It's been almost 20 years and it stayed with me to this day. I just keep thinking about that. Just such a tragic story of Lisa Trevor, and she's my number 1.
Self-destruct sequence has been deactivated. Have a nice day.
That was close. Too close. Well, everybody, that's video 2 of 3 in my Resident Evil rankings. The final video 3 of 3, will be the best games, and that will be coming up soon. And I'd like to thank, again, Mr. Cody Leach for having me be part of this. It's a lot of fun. It really means the world to me. And stay tuned for that video, everybody. It'll be coming soon. And as always, thank you.